Hello everyone, I have a one shot for you today that's going to be just a little bit different from the way I usually do things. You'll know by now that when I do a one shot, my routine is to drink a shot and then get one shot to tell you the plot of an early modern play. Well, today, for the first time, I'm not going to focus so much on the plot because there is hardly any. What I'm going to be doing really is making a pitch to you for what a great play this would be to do. Because today's effort in honour of the Artemis mission, which has so recently successfully returned, I'm going to be doing Aphra Behn's The Emperor of the Moon. Now, this play has fallen into absolute obscurity and it is tissue paper thin in terms of plot. I would have almost nothing to tell you, but what it is an absolutely brilliant choice for any kind of large group drama production. So university theatre, drama clubs, community theatre, schools. It would be such a great show for a large group with a lot of imagination and a good dollop of silliness to give everyone an opportunity to show their particular talents. And goodness knows we need a little bit of frivolity at this time in the world, I believe. And so to help me along with this, I have, in effect, rocket fuel. There's some really horrific vodka that I happen to have nearby. Shout out to my teenage child who is a bad influence on me. So Aphra Behn's The Emperor of the Moon. This is why you should take it to your drama group and do this show. Okay, that was as horrendous as I expected, but hopefully it will propel me through this play. Okay, so restoration comedies, so slightly at the later end of the plays that I do for you. Aphra Behn, you heard me talk about her before with The Rover, really exciting and hilarious restoration female playwright. This play, Emperor of the Moon, really interesting play from the point of view of the development of theatre styles in England, because it is absolutely rooted in commedia dell'arte tropes. Not even just gesturing towards, like, it's a commedia play. And being performed in 1687, it is a little after Moliere was doing this kind of thing. And in fact, this play owes a great deal to Moliere's The Imaginary Invalid. But it is several decades before Goldoni back over in Italy was made his fame by taking commedia tropes and scripting them and formalizing them and turning them into plays like scripted dramas like The Servant of Two Masters. So it actually is pretty pioneering from the point of view of English drama. And it goes like this. We open on two beautiful young noble women and their governess. Now, they are, as usual, complaining about the fact that they have an old guardian. They are the daughter and niece of a doctor who has fallen increasingly into madness because of his obsession with the moon, with astronomy, with watching the skies, and he has begun to believe that the moon has a ruler, has an emperor who has a court that he is hoping to see of the moon with his telescopes. Now, these two girls have very appropriate and high-born and devoted pair of lover boys who will turn up a little bit later. And the other characters are their governess, Mopsophil. I know it sounds like a really cute bunny. Maybe it's a reference to the rabbit in the moon. You never know. And she too is being pursued by two suitors. And the suitors are the doctor's servant Scaramouche and the gentleman's servant Harlequin. So yes, the names Harlequin and Scaramouche drawn directly from commedia. It's not like Behn is disguising that is what she's doing. She's very clearly and openly writing a commedia play. Now, this gives us a core cast of 8. I think the fun thing to do would be to gender flip a couple of the roles, have the governess played by a usually male presenting actor, and have Harlequin and Scaramouche played by women. And that way you have a nicely balanced cast of 4 men and 4 women, and a bit of a nod to where British theatre later developed from these commedia tropes into later traditions of pantomime. So where you have a pantomime dame and you have principal boys. So it's sort of a little, it would be a way to stage the development of theatre history. But I did say it was fun and frivolous, so let's find out what happens. Basically, the whole of the plot is simply that the 2 handsome and genteel young men concoct a plan to deceive the Doctor into thinking that he has actually seen the court of the Emperor on the moon, and then that the court has come down, and that these 2 young men are the Emperor of the Moon and Prince Thunder. I was going to say Thundercloud, but it's not Thundercloud, it's Thunder something. Thunderworth, Thunderwith, Thunderland, Prince Thunderland. And in order to persuade him, the old man, to permit them to marry his daughters. So the whole of the play is just a series of kind of elaborate comic trick episodes drawn from commedia scenarios that show the complicated setup and gradual progression of this overall trick. So this includes things like Scaramouche convincing the Doctor that, trying to hide the 2 girls and the 2 boys, the fact that they've been secretly meeting, by arranging them into a pretend tapestry and convincing the Doctor that that he's commissioned this amazing artwork, and isn't it impressive? It includes things like Harlequin and Scaramouche disguising themselves as a farmer and an apothecary to secretly find their way in to woo Mopsiville, and she of course isn't deceived, and they think she is, and then she just makes fools of them. And then things like there's a really great moment for a virtuoso physical comic, if you can find one, to play Harlequin, where Harlequin, broken-hearted, thinking that Mopsiville is going to marry someone else, decides to end it all and decides most ways of killing himself are too unappealing, and he's going to tickle himself to death. So he just does this whole routine where what he does is get a feather out of his hat and try to take his shoe off and try and tickle himself to death. There are descriptions all the way through of the fantastical instruments that it says Scaramouche brings on a telescope of 20 foot or more, and then there are descriptions of the costumes and the disguise. There's a bit where Harlequin disguises himself as a woman to try and get a letter from the boys to the girls, and sees Scaramouche wooing Mopsiville, and so pretends to be Scaramouche's spurned lover in order to cause discord between them. So the whole play is this series of complicated and absurd scenarios, which you could take or leave or improvise on, build on, because they're really built in a way that you are supposed to make them funny and fun and beautiful to watch based on the resources you have. And the culmination of all this is by the end, the boys have found an abandoned hall. It's referred to as a gallery. So it's basically just a big hall, and they set it up to look like the court of the Emperor of the Moon. And then they send 2 people in who are actually referred to as Kelper and Galileo. So throwing out some really fun references to, a lot of it is about science, famous scientists, the difference between science and delusion. So they send these guys in to bring the Doctor to the gallery, convince him that what's actually happened is the court of the Emperor of the Moon has come down because the Emperor and his son want to marry the two girls. And then the descriptions are amazing of how he makes the girls dress up in bizarre costumes to look like they are appropriate, I was going to say suitors, but whatever the flip side of that is, like appropriate objects of desire for the Emperor of the Moon. And then there's all this about the musicians and the acrobats and the court that comes in. So basically, if you are a theatrical society of any kind, you could find out what your people can do, and you can shape this whole thing around it. You can have musicians, you can have dancers, you can have acrobats, you can have your costume designers go absolutely to town with whatever resources you have, build things that are extraordinary and fantastical and just wonderful to watch. And then the whole thing culminates in a scene where the disguised Harlequin and Scaramouche, who are supposed to be the princes of the sun, have a duel to decide who gets to marry Mopsiville. Scaramouche is declared the victor, but then reveals himself, and the Doctor recognizes his own servant, realizes he's been gulled, and is mortified to admit that he has been so fooled, and that everything that he had been believing up to now was just his lunacy. And so he is humbled. He agrees that of course the girls should get to marry the boys, and that the only wise man is a man who realizes he knows nothing. So that is the whole of the play. And what I would love you to take away from this is that at a time when we really need more fantasy and more artistry and more joy in what we show to the world and in what we experience, in what we create, this would be just a wonderful play for any group to be as colourful as you like, as silly as you like, and get a play that does not usually make it to the stage, to the rotation lists, like Aphra Behn's better known work, The Rover. Get another play from one of the great female playwrights onto the stage in a way that will just bring a little lunar joy into the world.